Hello, and welcome to the second episode of this series in which I am showcasing and demoing my new tabletop role-playing game called Parable. My name is Jacob Motl. For this series, I am acting as both game master and player. This is a solo series, so I have some world building set up, some different characters, but I don't know how everything is going to play out. I don't know what characters might show up. I don't know what interplay might occur throughout this series. And I am using a few, 3 or 4, maybe 5 different supplemental materials to help facilitate and push the story forward. So I will be using those. They are random generators, tables, some different mechanics and processes to help push the story. Now, that said, the core of this series is the parable system, and that is what is going to be highlighted for the most part. The different mechanics and rules and systems within the parable framework. So as a bit of a brief recap from the last episode, our character, Brother Quinn of Farstone, member of the Amethyst Order, fled persecution by the religious order of Prakasa. He took refuge in the Stone Curtain Mountains, but again had to flee due to the threat of the persecution. He escaped west of the city into a region known as Denrick's Crossing, which is an expansive, rugged wilderness. After some poor weather while trying to travel, met Daron, a human who was fishing at the time of their meeting. Daron offered to give Quinn a place to dry off at his cottage nearby. When the two arrived at the cottage, however, they saw that the windows were smashed, the front door was broken down, the place is ransacked, and a strange and somewhat ominous symbol was painted in red upon the porch. It is here where the story resumes. So Daron is standing right on the dirt path leading up to the porch. He just looks beside himself, but also worried. Brother Quinn is looking down at the red symbol on the porch. What does this symbol mean? What happened here? And Daron, finally breaking his gaze on his house, looks around the forest at his surroundings to make sure he doesn't see anything else that is suspicious. Finally, after a few moments, he looks down at Quinn and says, "The Red Wolves, they are a very powerful gang of thieves and thugs." Now I think I will make a knowledge roll for Quinn to see if he has at least heard of the Red Wolves. And that is a 4. His knowledge is +0, and that is a setback. So I will mark 1 XP for him. So he has not heard of the Red Wolves. He has no clue who they are, what they're about. And so he's going to ask Daron what they want with him and why they would ransack his house. So first I'm going to roll a D100 to see if Daron knows why they're after him and why they keep harassing him. Because in the last episode he said that he wishes they would leave him alone. So this isn't a first occurrence. This isn't an isolated incident. I'm going to see if he knows what they want with him. And I'm going to say 50-50 chance of if he knows what they want. And 82, yes, he does know what they want. So now I am using, for this next bit, to see what they want or what their goal is as a faction. I'm using the Ironsworn Starforged reference guide, specifically the faction projects table. So that is another D100 roll. Okay, I got 11, which is destroy or defeat a rival. So the So Daron says that the Red Wolves are trying to defeat a rival force within the region. Now, why does that relate to them going after Daron specifically? Let's take a look. So using the same Starforged reference guide, for Daron, I'm going to see what his role was in the context of the Red Wolves and their striving to defeat their rival. What role did he play within that, which prompts the Red Wolves to now come after him? So looking at the character section of the Starforged reference, I got a 66. So Daron was a pirate of some sort. I would say from that he was a member of the Red Wolves at one point. And then what was his goal? I got a 64 on that one, so that is sabotage a technology. Okay, so Daron at one point was a member of the Red Wolves, and they were striving, they had maybe some sort of a grand plan to defeat their rival, probably a rival faction within the region, and Daron, through some sort of certain action, screwed up the plans. Sabotage, maybe it was intentional, maybe not. Let me roll on the yes-no chart to see if the sabotage was intentional. I would say we'll go 50-50 chance. No, we'll go likely. It's likely, because if he sabotaged, and if he's now living apart from the group, yeah, it was an intentional sabotage. So Daron was a member of the Red Wolves at one point, and they had the upper hand against a rival faction within Danrig's Crossing. And through certain actions, Daron intentionally sabotaged their strength within the region. And now that is why the Red Wolves are after him. So Daron relays this all to Quinn and walks inside very cautiously into his cottage to see how much damage, to assess if anything was taken, what was broken. He steps onto the porch over the fresh paint of the symbol made. The floorboards creak a little bit of the porch, and he walks over the door, kind of breaks a little bit as he steps on it. First, I'm going to roll a D100 to see if there's any sort of an ambush waiting inside of the cottage. And I'm also going to roll a focus check for Quinn to see if he hears anything inside or sees anything. And 50-50 chance on the ambush. For the focus roll, his focus is +1. Rolled a 12, so 13 total. So just as Daron walks into the cottage and steps over the door, Brother Quinn hears something but isn't able to react fast enough. Someone jumps out from the corner of the room and attacks Daron. The assailant knocks Daron to the ground. Quinn rushes inside he's going to try to whack the assailant with his quarterstaff. So for that, Quinn is going to make a melee roll, which his melee is not good. It is -4. Also going to roll the impact die for the quarterstaff at the same time. 11 -4, 7. So that is a miss. He runs in and tries to hit the assailant, but the assailant notices or hears Quinn running in and dodges out of the way, and Quinn hits the floor right where the assailant was. Daron, now prone on the ground on his back, trying to gather what just happened, he tries to crawl, kind of push himself back up towards the wall as the assailant regains their footing. The assailant makes a quick look at the door. Between the assailant and the door, is standing Brother Quinn. He's going to try to whack the assailant again with his quarterstaff. So another melee roll, and the impact die at the same time. So got a 3, that is definitely not it. Oh, and I will mark XP for both this and the previous attack attempts. So Quinn goes up to the assailant and tries to hit them again, but again misses. The assailant then, dodging out of the way, makes a dash for the door and escapes outside. Quinn rushes over to Daron to make sure that he's okay, other than some bruises, and he hit his head, so that's bleeding a little bit, but otherwise he's fairly okay. Of course, he's shaken up at the ambush, but no broken bones, nothing too severe, just minor wear and tear and scrapes. As Quinn helps Daron up off of the floor, Daron just looks out through the broken window to make sure that there aren't any other threats immediately that he can see. And he says, that was one of the Red Wolves. Thank you for being brave and defending me. I probably would have just lost my life had you not been here to scare them off. Brother Quinn, not being a warrior fighting type, but with the adrenaline, having swung his staff a few times, now calming down a bit, asks Daron if there is anywhere safe that he can go to hide from the Red Wolves. I will say 50-50 chance on whether or not Daron knows of a place. So 7, he does not know of anywhere safe to hide or to take refuge at the moment, even if it's just temporary. He seems to be very much on his own out here. So with that, Quinn offers to Daron that they travel together, and Quinn mentions that he's trying to travel west beyond the Minor Fold, and Daron can travel with him. He might be able to find a new and safer life there in the west, rather than staying here in danger. And Daron is appreciative of that and thinks it's a grand idea. Okay, so now that Daron has joined Quinn on the travels off camera, I have gone ahead and made a full-fledged character sheet for Daron that you can see here. So now Quinn is going to turn to Daron for setting their next destination. Daron knows this region far better than Quinn likely does, so it's going to be up to Daron to determine where to go. And for him, I'm going to have him make a knowledge roll, and that'll see if he knows where they could possibly go, or whether they should take the main road, or if there's some sort of a back trail, whichever one would be safer. So 14, Daron's knowledge is -2, so that is a 12. So partial success. Daron has, let's see, and then let's see if it is main trails. We're going to do, we'll say likely it's going to be the main road. Okay, no, they got an 11, so that is not the main road. There's going to be some sort of a back trail through the hills and the forests that Daron knows to take, and their destination is west. We'll say they find the trail and they're making their way, winding through the landscape. For this next roll, which is a travel roll to see if anything happens, I am using the 5 Leagues from the Borderlands 3rd edition, specifically the travel event table. So that's another D100. 57. While they're traveling, they see something in the distance. And after how many hours of traveling? I'm going to roll a D6. Okay, after only an hour of walking through, they're going to see something far off in the distance. So Quinn and Daron, as they're walking through, they come to a bit of an overlook, a clearing in the trees, and a kind of a vantage point where they can look out to some sort of a ravine or a drop-off below. And now, using the same 5 leagues from the borderlands, I am now rolling a D100 on the unexplored locations table, and I got an 8, which is an old ruin. So that's what they see from this vantage point. They see some old ruins down below. It's about 4 miles out from where they are. Now, does Daron know what this is? Since it's in kind of the back areas of the landscape, it could be something that the Red Wolves once used, or it could be something else entirely. So I'm going to roll a D100 on the yes or no. We'll say 50-50 whether or not he knows. I'm also going to roll at the same time a knowledge roll for Daron. Ooh, natural 1, so he has no idea what this is. Yeah, that's decisive. So that is 2 XP for Daron. And to kind of give it some description, I am using the GM's Miscellany Wilderness Dressing, using the Small Ruins description table. So D100 again, 71. It says, a high wall surrounds a small cemetery. From where the two of them stand, they can see tombstones and a single mausoleum in the center of this area. The walls are crumbling and very much in ruin. Some of them are smashed and deteriorated. Some of them are half standing, half obliterated. And again, Daron does not recognize what this place is. Let's see, at this point, it's about mid-afternoon at this point. The sun is no longer high in the sky, but starting to sag down towards the horizon. Certainly nowhere near sunset yet, but something to keep in mind. Now, with this ruin that they can see, having it so far away, 4 miles, they're going to hope and pray that that place is abandoned, and they will make there for the evening to kind of camp out there. Now, along the way, using the GM's Miscellany Wilderness Dressing, rolling a D100 on the Forest and Woodland Dressing table, as they walk and descend down the path in what they believe is towards the ruins that they see, they begin to notice that there are several trees marked with white arrows made in chalk, and they seem to be pointing out a pathway. Now, do these arrows seem to point towards the ruins? I'll say it's unlikely, because this is probably a secret pathway to something else. Yeah, they don't. The arrows don't seem to be pointing in the direction of the ruins. The two of them both stop and look at the arrows. They start to follow a few. Once they begin to stray from the main foot trail, they stop and question whether or not it's worth it to follow the arrows or if they should keep on the trail. And I think what I'll do is I will have Daron make a knowledge roll, adding his investigation skill, so he'll get a +2 bonus, to see if he can determine which way the arrows are going, or maybe what it could signify. So I'll do that first. Okay, 6. He has no idea. And while he is doing this, we'll mark an XP for Daron. While he's doing that and trying to take a look at the arrows, which way they might be pointing, again, no idea. But while he's doing that, Quinn is going to keep an eye and ear out for any dangers in the vicinity that maybe he can detect. So that's going to be a focus roll. And a 16 with a +1 for his focus. So that is a success. And is there anything currently, other than the sounds of nature, that he picks up? I hate to keep doing this, but we'll do a 50-50, unsure. And 20, so no, there's nothing other than the sounds of nature. The birds chirping and the wind whooshing through the trees. He doesn't hear or see anything out of the ordinary, aside from these arrows. So, since the footpath seems to lead towards the ruins, and the arrows go some direction that they aren't sure about, they are going to stick with what they think is the best course of action, which is following the footpath towards the ruins. And they do so. It takes them a good 5 hours as they go winding through the hills and the trees. This isn't a clean-cut path. This is very much a backroads situation, and it is not as the crow flies. So, going that last stretch of the way to the ruins, they do eventually make their way there 5 hours later, as the sun is now setting. Now, when they get to the tombstone, this kind of mausoleum area, and now that they're right up on it, they can pick out a lot more detail. So again, using the GM's miscellany, the wilderness dressing, specifically now the large ruins table, I will roll, and I got a 90. The walls are made of granite. They tower 50 feet in height, and they stretch in either direction from the road. The walls are cracked and crumbling. Some of them have large pieces of stone and ruins and rubble that have fallen down over time. And then I will also roll on the small ruins table, another D100. The gate of this kind of tomb cemetery area is rusted, and they push with ease. It kind of falls down. And as they enter the cemetery, they come to a fence made of iron, but the iron is made to look like bones and skeletons. It is very gothic. Every increment of about 10 feet or so, there is an iron-cast humanoid skull sitting atop the posts of this fence. There are also iron bones that are propped up like wind chimes. What little breeze there is in this walled-off cemetery, they do rattle slightly. And as these bone-looking wind chimes rattle in the breeze, Quinn recognizes the sound, and he tells Daron, "I heard something that sounds nearly identical to those wind chimes. And this was before I met you, as I just left Azabosh. I heard a sound like this. It was in the trees behind me from the direction that I came. Do you recognize this sound at all?" And let's see if Daron does. We're going to have him make a knowledge roll. And he does not recognize the sound. He does not recognize it at all. He got an 11, minus 2 for his knowledge. So that is a setback. He hasn't heard this sound before. He says that to Quinn, that it's unfamiliar. Marked an XP for that for Daron. But instead, Daron is going to go look at the tombstones. He's going to go through the skeletal fence, through the gate of it, and Quinn will follow along. Daron is very curious what this place is. In all of his time with the Red Wolves and traveling through this region, he hasn't come across anything quite like this. So he's going to... I'll have him make a focus roll, looking at the tombstones. And 15, minus 1 for his focus. Okay, so that's a partial success, and now... Are these tombstones in a legible condition? I'm gonna say it's unlikely that they can be read because they are so old. 84. Okay, so he is able to make out surprisingly more than you would think he'd be able to, given their condition. With the partial success, he isn't able to get a full image, but I'm going to use the GM's miscellany, the urban dressing, for this to determine what he sees. And I'm looking under the graveyards and the headstones, which is a D20 roll. So a 16. Okay, so what he finds looking around these headstones, just as the wall surrounding this cemetery, which is made of granite, the headstones as well are made of granite. And what he sees on each of the headstones is lettering which is inlaid with gold. And due to the age, there's some patina on the gold, but once he brushes away some of the dirt, he does see it kind of shines through. The writing on the tombstones is not recognized by either Quinn or Daron, but there is a bit of iconography on the tombstones, and let's see if Quinn recognizes what that might be. Because Quinn comes from a magical order that also dabbles in some religion, he is going to see if he can figure out or discern what the iconography is. So I will have him make a knowledge roll, and he got a 15, so partial success. So Quinn does recognize the iconography. Now let's see if it is something to be concerned about or something that is not necessarily a threat. And we'll say a D100 roll. Low is going to be something ominous. High is going to be something of no concern. Okay, I got an 18, so it is the icons that Quinn is looking at as he brushes away the patina and the dirt and the dust from being weathered over time. The icon is of a flame with 2 wings. Upon seeing this, Quinn's eyes grow wide. Daron notices and comes over. What is it? What troubles you? What have you found? And Quinn just points at the icon that he's looking at in front of him. Look at this symbol. I know that symbol. It is the symbol of Eldranoth, Lord of the Abyss. And that is where we will end this episode. For experience, XP, Quinn gained 3 XP this episode from rolls, and then add 1 for completing and surviving this episode. So he should have a total of 8. And Daron, I believe, gained 5 XP, plus 1 for surviving the episode, should bring him to a total of 6 XP. And as for strands, we can definitely add to that now, with Daron's backstory of having made enemies in some way with the Red Wolves, and after having been ambushed and his home ransacked by a member of the Red Wolves, we can add the strand, avoid the Red Wolves gang of bandits, and specifically for Quinn, offering Daron to come with him to the west to hopefully safer lands, can add a special strand of protecting Daron from the Red Wolves. We will find out on the next episode what information or mysteries might be held within this cemetery where we leave Brother Quinn and his new companion, Daron. Thank you for watching.